G'day legends, and we have got some news from the rumor mill about Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall, how much it's going to cost and whether or not it's probably going to happen. So that is what we are going to be talking about in today's video. And let me tell you personally, as someone who has started creating MMA content, there is a feeling that you get when you are about to record a video that you know like 90% of people are going to disagree with. But I believe this in my heart. So I've got to go ahead, I've got to lay out my case, and I have to say it. And this seems to be the week where I'm copping a bunch of L's anyway, so screw it. We're here now. Let's just do this thing. We got some news from Joe Rogan. None other than Joe Rogan himself, okay? It's got to do with Jon Jones fighting Tom Aspinall. Now, let's not let the sentence fool you because it hasn't been confirmed. It is just rumor mongering, right? And straight away, let us start off with the quote itself. That way we all know what we're talking about, and then we'll get into the source of the quote, and then we'll get into my thoughts on it. The quote is from Joe Rogan. Do we do it in the Joe Rogan voice? Let's try and do it in the Joe Rogan voice. They're coming to an agreement, man. Some sort of agreement. The rumor is that Jon Jones wants $30 million. And the UFC, they're going to pay, man. People forget. The UFC's never paid before. Now I'm going off track. No, the UFC, the rumor is they're going to pay it. That is Joe Rogan speaking from the Joe Rogan Experience. He is very, very nasty with his copyright claims these days, so we'll just leave it as an image of the tweet. Firstly, this rumor, the idea that the UFC are going to pay it, this is coming from Rogan, and I'm very divided on Rogan in my own mind right now. I've got two Rogans in my head, and this would be good to get some feedback on. Rogan 1 or Rogan 2? Which one do you guys think actually exists? Yeah, now Rogan 1, yeah? Rogan 1, he's completely checked out of the UFC. Completely checked out of the UFC. He gets on his private jet every couple of months, flies to whatever pay-per-view is still based in the UFC, shakes everybody's hand, rolls in, takes the same seat that he's been taking for the last 15 or 20 years, however long it's been, and he just sort of cruise controls his way through the commentary for 8 hours. He's done the same job for years and years and years. You know, just complete cruise control Rogan, completely checked out of the sport. Yeah, he'll check in whenever like someone that he really loves is fighting, and he'll chuck on the fights when his mates come over and watch it at the studio. But even then, when he's doing that companion podcast, they're like talking and drinking the entire way through it. They're half-ass watching the fights. He's just chatting through the entire thing. He's done it for years. He's the voice of the big cards. He's great for the casuals. The MMA fans kind of hate him, but they also sort of feel nostalgic when we hear his voice. Sort of reminds us of a time where you'd have to go and actually buy a pay-per-view of the DVD, and now you've got them all lined up on your windowsill back at home. You know, but he doesn't care, yeah? And his speculation, it's just running on cruise control. And he remembers a few years ago, you know, Jon Jones wanted NBA money to fight, yeah? And Rogan, he's kind of heard that Dana's changed his tune a little bit, and he's just lazily putting 2 and 2 together in his head and yapping away on his podcast. That's Rogan 1. But here's Rogan 2. Rogan 2, he's a highly, highly curious man. And he has made a career of asking people questions that he sincerely wants the answer to. And even though he has sort of checked out of MMA as part of his like 9-to-5 job experience, he is still super attached to the sport and switched on to the big fights and the big moments, and he cares about those ones deeply. And a fight like Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall, that still tickles Joe Rogan's fancy, yeah? And he would ask all the people that he knows in the world some news to try and figure out what is going on, because that's that curious side of Rogan. Be on the phone to some people about the future events that he's going to be working, or drop it in a conversation, or be in a group chat with some of the boys from some of the management teams or people working for the UFC, or drop it in a conversation. He might directly reach out to a particular bold fight promoter just to have a chat. Say, hey, what's up? Happy New Year. How you going? Did you hear this piece of news while the break was going on? Hey, by the way, while I'm talking to you, what's with Jon Jones, man? What's with Jon Jones? I could 100% see Rogan 2 being mentally stimulated enough to go and chase down some answers. So which Rogan do you think we're dealing with here? Checked out Rogan, Rogan 1, or mentally stimulated Rogan, Rogan 2? But let's now move on, right, to the second part of this of like the UFC are actually going to be making this happen, yeah? The UFC are going to be paying Jon Jones $30 million, which I have seen a lot of people, as I was doing some research for this tweet, say that they should do that Jon Jones deserves $30 million. And here's where I think I'm going to get into a conflict with a large amount of the UFC audience. Does Jon Jones deserve $30 million to fight Tom Aspinall? Categorically, no. No, he does not. Not even close to $30 million. And I'll explain why I don't think he deserves it. Number one, Jon Jones has been found guilty of cheating more than anybody else in our sport ever at a high level. And do not give me the old bullshit about how everyone was cheating back then. That's true. Back when Jon Jones started, everyone was cheating back then. But as we get into point number two, this was during an era when USADA was in here and everyone was meant to be cleanly sailing, right? This is the era around UFC 200 where the Brock Lesnar, Mark Hill controversy came out to play, yeah? Because everyone was meant to be clean and Jon Jones was still cheating during that era. So it's not everyone was cheating back in the day. He was cheating when everyone was meant to be clean. I don't think you should pay out someone who is your sport's biggest cheat. Not only does he cheat when it comes to the drugs, he cheats in the cage as well. Jon Jones is known massively for jousting his fingers. He is also known for just being a straight up dirty fighter with the oblique kick and trying to take out people's kneecaps. So he cheats outside of the cage with steroids. He cheats inside of the cage when it comes to the eye pokes, and he used dirty tactics to win fights. Now, number two, because of the cheating, he ruined DC's career by head kicking the shit out of him while he was on steroids and still claims the legacy of that fight. He still gets rewarded. His highlights still get shown of that head kick TKO chasing DC to the ground, right? So Mr. deserves the biggest payday ever was on steroids when he destroyed one of the GOATs of the sport. And what do I mean by that? Look at DC's career without Jon Jones. He would have been a reigning light heavyweight champion. And he also would have won the double championship by moving up to heavyweight as well. DC would undoubtedly be in maybe one of your top 5 fighters of all time if it wasn't for Jon Jones destroying his legacy. So does someone who ruined the legacy of one of the best athletes we've ever seen by cheating deserve one of the biggest paydays ever? No. Point number 3, yeah? The UFC have already done Jon Jones favors by giving him the Stipe Miocic payday and protecting him from Tom Aspinall already. Jon Jones is the reigning heavyweight champion. It is insane that this needs to be reiterated again and again and again and again and again. Tom Aspinall is the active defending interim champion. And they raised the corpse of Stipe Miocic from the dead from 4 years ago and put him in there against Jon Jones anyway. You've already had a favor done for you. All the money you made from that fight was essentially just free money that the UFC has already given you, Jon Jones. Point number 4. The UFC have essentially done the opposite of defamation when it comes to Jon Jones. I know they're promoters, they're meant to promote him, but they have artificially kept his legacy up as the greatest fighter of all time. Even though he skirted past the Reyes win, which the head of the company doesn't even think he won, like actively went out there and started saying Reyes didn't win that fight. But now he turns around and just completely ignores that, says he's never lost a fight, never even come close to losing a fight. So he's gotten some gifted decisions from the judges in the past. They kept Gustafsson away from him for ages. They carried water for him now that he has re-signed with the UFC. Like back in the day when Francis steamrolled Stipe Miocic, Dana White was quoted as saying Jon Jones might want to cut weight and move down a division. But now Dana White's all like, well, Francis didn't want that fight. Francis didn't want to fight Jon Jones. Francis didn't want to fight the best of the best. So the UFC have gone out of their way to actively promote him and carry water for him. Yeah. Number 4, he's not even been a company man in the UFC by taking his sweet ass time to get up to heavyweight to fight Francis Ngannou, waiting until essentially Francis Ngannou left, yeah? Then they're saying no to short notice events, which I know it sucks, but fighters, by being company men, they're meant to be like Volkanovski or Alex Pereira. They're meant to say yes to short notice events. You're on contract, you're paid to be in the gym, the PI is open to you. Not back then, the PI didn't exist, but the point is like, there are company men that say yes to short notice events to help the company. Jon Jones has not been one of those guys. He has avoided short notice events. And then not only that, but they've had to move entire events because he was testing positive for steroids. I do not understand how anyone in their right mind can use the word deserves and Jon Jones. how a company is expected to pay their highest payout ever to one of their worst employees ever. He has been a bad employee, a bad athlete, and a bad competitor across the board. None of that has even got to do with his personal life. That is his personal life completely aside. This is just his professional life when it comes to Jon Jones contracting to the UFC. There is in no way at all that he deserves the biggest payday ever. He also has a contract that he has already willingly signed with the company around the era of Francis Ngannou and him moving up to heavyweight. He has recently sat down within the last couple of years, negotiated with the company about his move up to heavyweight and got given a good new contract for him to move up to heavyweight. And now all he has to do is fight the number one contender at heavyweight, the interim champion, and he wants to sit on an even bigger bag of cash. There is no reason that Jon Jones deserves this pay other than your own pure lust. People simply want to see the Jon Jones Aspinall fight so badly that it's like, just pay him. There's a part of me that wants that. After all those reasons that I just expressed, there are parts of me that just wants just to see this happen. Just pay him. But do not fool yourselves into thinking that that's anything other than wanting to satiate your own lust to see the fight. He does not deserve that pay in any way at all. If I was Dana White, if I was the big boss, the big bald boss Dana White, I would sit down on Monday, call Jon Jones I would schedule a meeting Monday morning, first thing, 9 a.m. Jon Jones won't be awake. Midday, get Jon Jones in the office. And I would slide his current contract that he already has across the desk. And I would say to him, listen, mate, I've already taken a hit on my reputation by going around for all of 2024 and calling you the greatest fighter of all time and the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world. I already did you a favor and gave you the Stipe Miocic fight. There's your contract. That is what you were getting paid. But I'll give you 2% revenue on the gate at T-Mobile when we do the fight with Aspinall in July. Plus, I'll give you 2% of all merchandise sales on top of your current pay-per-view points that are in that contract right there. And then I would slide another contract across the desk, and that would be the fight contract with Tom Aspinall for July at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. And I would say, you have that signed back to me on Friday, or we strip you. And this promotion team that has worked for you for the last 12 months starts to take this in a completely different direction. Now get the fuck out of my office. That is how I would handle Jon Jones. Let me know what you think about that down there in the comments. If this is your first time here, g'day, my name is Dougie. I try and make an MMA video every single day of the week, Monday through Friday, and I try and go live about 3 times a week. If you want to know when that happens, hit that subscribe button. If you want to know when I go live, hit that bell button. That should notify you, but it's YouTube, so it's a little bit iffy. If you're already on board with the channel, please leave a like. It would help my feelings a lot this week. Please leave a like. And if you're one of the financial supporters of the channel, one of the channel members, thank you so much. It goes such a long way to supporting this channel. So your names are on the slide next, but thank you guys so much. Until then, you guys all have a great day, and I'll see you all in the next video.